there are multiple fragmented scripts being written and created by people who work and walk within the community of light workers, grid workers, conscious beings, chosen ones per se. What's happening is that because of social media, because people, well, such as myself right now speaking, right? People with great and beautiful intent, they keep speaking, and we are in a sense of overstimulation of receiving so much information now. You know, back in my day, growing up in the 90s, it was all about the magazines, the newspapers, right? You know, when you want to read something, you get tired after page 3 or 4. You always had that one friend that read the whole damn thing, and I was like, what? And you're like, after 3 or 4, you're just like, I'll put that down for tomorrow. Now, you know, you could spend 15 minutes and you've gone through like 10, 20, 30 videos and pictures, and yeah, it happens to me. Your nervous system is not built for that. Yes, it's being recalibrated for it, and you're giving it time to do that because your nervous system is so evolved, so it can be. But that's what I mean, there's a separation, because people are graduating to their higher mind, which can be such a real thing, but they're disrespecting not just their nervous system, but then the entire ancestry the same, because your nervous system, as your spirit and your soul incarnated into flesh form, was reliant and is reliant and dependent on your entire ancestral line. Because if they didn't do what they did for you to even be born here, you wouldn't have such an evolved avatar called a human body. So as you start evolving, you start to forget a lot of your signature contracts and your agreements. And I don't mean your soul contracts, I mean your signature contracts. I mean your blueprinted one, the one that was embedded into your DNA. You tend to start bypassing, as in bypass surgery, versus just simply soul surgery. You start bypassing a lot of the agreements that you made. And I don't mean just simply just honor your elders and take crap from them. I don't mean that. It goes so much deeper. It means that as you honor yourself with complete self-sincerity, you're already honoring them. It's not praying to them. It's saying that you already know that there's no separation between you and them. So as you do unto yourself, you know how it impacts them. Yes, they have to do the work, whether they're in this body embodiment or they're not any longer here. They still have to do the work because that's what they're doing. They're evolving, maybe just in a different body, whether they're in a different dimension, reality, a different soul body, or they're doing it in another way without the embodiment. They're still doing that. They're still evolving. But I'll give you a scenario. All right? I have a dark side, a dark past, and I have a light side. And if you've been my client, my patient, as an acupuncturist, you've seen both. But you know who I am, in a sense where you know that I am in complete servitude to all of humanity, not just through physical pain management and anguish, not just with chronic autoimmune pathology, but also in activation, and also in reminding you that you are your true physician. It was never me in the beginning or in the first place. It's always giving it back to you. So there goes my, I would say my path. That's neither light nor dark, what I just said. That's walking in complete, not just neutrality, but in harmony between the two. So some people came incarnated here with pasts, not in this life, being very dark. So they are truly, sincerely here working on the light, such as rainbow beings or these new children who are being born. That's why they're very impatient. They won't take crap from you in 2 seconds, because at 3 or 4 or 5 years old, these kids, you see them, these kids are already going to show you that we're older than you, bruh. Says. And a lot of parents don't know what to do with them, right? Because they're not here to become just part of your ancestry. They're here to burn it. And then as they grow older, they're going to walk and show you and illuminate the path by them simply just being them, which is going to sound very selfish, but it's not on the other end. So the real ones I'm talking about. But then there's those who came in here scapegoating because they're highly intelligent, and the reason why is because they might have an ancestral line of having like this big, heavy old conscious of a brain. And that's the beauty of our evolution, is that we have this very evolved mind, and we can do kind of like anything we set forth to. We can, even if you're not a very evolved soul, you can be whatever you want, right? You can be wealthy, you can decide to be poor, you can be a crackhead, you can be whatever you want. You know, you say you don't have a choice, but you actually command that you say that you don't have a choice. You're just not aware how powerful you are. Let's say if you can try to prove me wrong, say that person never had a chance. No. You have to see things a little different. I say that all the time in videos. See things a little different, at least for perspective purposes. There's a bigger picture that I'm attempting to get across here. So it's not to talk about my past, like I'm proud of it or I'm not. Well, I'm actually like had a pretty interesting past. I grew up, I graduated in 1993 from Eastside High School. For those who don't know, especially newer generation, it's if you ever seen the movie Lean on Me, Morgan Freeman, he was the principal, Joe Clark. It became famous. Patterson, New Jersey became famous, not for great reasons, but it became a famous movie. I went to that school for 4 years. And I grew up in a neighborhood that probably wasn't the worst because I was born in North Philly, and you can arguably say that that's actually a lot more dangerous and more scary. So I spent the summers there too. So I grew up where that was a language for me. I didn't think of it as bad or good. I grew up in that neighborhood requiring to learn and to master the art of my fears, because I came in and was born introvert, and there was a shell that needed to be cracked by the time I was 15, 16 years old. So I was thrown into the fire of a grid work aspect of the earth where it's very dark. You know, it could have been a lot darker. I could have been born in Haiti, you know, other parts of the United States, right? But it was just the right temperament for my ascension process. See, everybody's in theirs as the same for theirs. It's not about that mine was worse than yours. No, it was just the right temperament. Because something of a powerful symphony that was going to be birthed from this experience. Because of this, I speak different dialects, I call them languages. I know what it's like to speak in the hood, you know. I hung out with my Jamaican friends, so I can't tap in the way I used to, but I know when I'm hanging out with my brothers and sisters, if somebody came to me and they sincerely spoke that language, I tap into that language, so I kind of like tend to like reflect and shapeshift into their language because it feels natural. Especially if it's organic and that's how they speak to me. So right now I can't speak Spanglish per se, but some Puerto Rican, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's hard for me. See, I feel a little weird now trying to be that. But they're there. So there are very dark aspects that actually happened to me. Very, very dark, horrible things that happened to me, and there are things that I've done in return, because I needed to experience the karma that was done unto me and turn to others, right? And I know that sounds crazy. It's because I'm like saying, yeah, I need it. See, when you speak about your past like this, you have to be able to invoke it as sacred. Who cares? Others that may judge you because they see things through a filter. See, I'm never speaking to those kind of people. Of course, I'm going to attract that conversation if I choose to go into such a platform such as this. But I'm also an educator. I taught at acupuncture schools, the same. You know, I taught kung fu, and you get, maybe in a smaller scale, you always get that one person or a couple people that are going to test you. You feel what I'm saying? So if I didn't have that experience, I would have probably lost it in a different way by putting that person in their place. But now, because of these horrible experiences, because of my rage, because of my anger, because of my fear, experiencing such extremities, they are wholeheartedly elixirs understood within my capacity, within my signature imprint, in such a way that I become the medicine man. Because that's one of my choices, to work in servitude for others, to help others register their awakening process into their flesh form body. Because when you do that, as I said before, you are integrating with an entire ancestral lineage that's embedded in codes, embedded into every single cell in your body, into your nervous system, and the way you even breathe and the way you speak. It could be from your father's lineage going back 1,000 years. You see what I'm saying? So every experience that you have, and the way that you move, and the way that you dance or that you don't know how to dance, yes, you can change that, but again, you change it based on the construct of these agreements that you made with your ancestors that you have never met. Not just your parents or your grandparents and your siblings, if you have them. But it goes back. Once you break the construct of those limitations, it's not to go back and to start to make a family tree and try to get everybody to try to understand them. You can do that because it's like going to a new, you can do that, but once you start to see it that way and you start expanding, it's no separate than going into this beautiful mountain for the first time, and you will actually get remembrances because maybe 1,000 years ago, that mountain that you had a calling to go to had an ancestor there. And that's where they speak to your subconscious mind. And for you to be able to understand that language from within yourself, that soul language, that light language that a lot of people say, right? You needed to have gone to the deepest aspects of the imprints and your past lives that you carry within today, because they became burdens. This is one of the Christ conscious imprints that was given to you so that you can know how to work with that map, so that when Christ within yourself, if you walk within that bloodline, you start to understand that kind of like indoctrination that people did. He didn't walk for you to indoctrinate that. He walked so that you could break through the fallacies and the stories, because that was the shell that was hiding the gem of the truth from within you. He was speaking about you when you read scripture. But you're reading and you're trying to put it and give it back to him. He's like, I don't want that. If he took it, it'd be a burden for him. Why would he want that? You don't want to be praised. If you already work with your narcissism and your ego and all that good stuff. You don't want to be. So why do you expect him to want to be praised? Why are you praising? Take the P out the way and raise your vibration. And that's what he asked you to do. Because when you expand your dark nature, because you were born into the dark, you came into the darkness. Without that sun flashing, Mother Earth is pure darkness. She's okay with that. That light came for us because we would have freaked out. We wouldn't be able to incarnate and work within the energetics that worked here. She was fine. It was us that needed that light. So now here we are co-mingling, co-creating along and co-integrating with Mother Earth the same. And she's in complete harmony, but you're not. She's not there reading scripture. She's just naturally expanding and breathing and being and vibrating and helping you in your process. And here you are, not just for 4, 5, 10 years of your life. I'm not speaking bad about it. In school, training, you know what I'm saying? Becoming a better person, reading books on Carl Jung and all these things. Yes. Scripture, understanding Christ more, and all these cats in the Bible and all these things. Yes, go deeper. So you need to hear the darkness of my words if you're still hanging along with this video, for you to be able to go deeper, because there are language codes that exist within the stillness and the intimacy of the darker aspects of the human experience. Now, if you're not here to be an educator of self and of others, then scroll, right? Or listen and judge and start taking notes, and your dark nature is going to start putting it into your ministry. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking to a very selective few that pay attention, that lurk. That's your dark nature. Bring that one to the light. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying to cut that head off. I'm saying that dark nature is made too small. Nobody has to understand that. And then now there's the other side of people who didn't experience remotely of what I was attempting to speak about with the dark nature within just my personal journey, because this story is different for every single person, right? And then there's those people who say, we don't need to do that. We're bypassing that. We just need to go amen, seek source, and just be with that. And the thing is, it actually works, because you actually start to attract and vibrate who you are in the moment. But then again, there comes lurking a lot of the burdens that are coming to you. Those that forgot that you didn't come here to save yourself. You didn't come here to save yourself. This message is not for most. I'm talking to you right now. You didn't come here to save yourself. You forgot. That was the distortion. You came here to remember the dark nature of not only yourself, but those that you agreed to incarnate into. you already know that once your ancestors passed, they just moved into a different vibration. You may or may not be conscious of that. Some are. As empaths, as psychics, as mediums, I mean the real ones. And some are, but don't require to invest just as powerful. They just know, they feel, they're okay with that, because they're working on a different resonance, symphony of creation within. You came here to dismantle the distortions. You came here to disrupt and to cause and to be the chaos. How? By simply being born here. See, it's not to believe me, it's actually to go and to go within your dark journey, because it's very dark, because that's how they created. They put all of the dark junk DNA of remembrances into the darkest aspects of your mind, because they couldn't disappear it, because they couldn't disappear you. They killed you many times, many wars, right? I died in many wars. I was in Pearl Harbor. Still get attacked by people who judge me because they don't know how to do it in real life. So how many times do you have to die, require salvation, keep repeating this video game of a reality because it feels like a video game? Once you start to break out of the 3D into like kind of like birthing instead of forward, a lot of people are making a big deal out of it, but it is a big deal. But don't get stuck. You could get lost in the sauce, you know. What happens is that you start creating these new clown masks. So for those of you that know how to work with your mask now, it's still, these masks are powerful and they can still consume you. So it's like scarier and more possessive than demons. Because you actually created these masks to work with, because now you're aware and now you still have to go to that 9-to-5 job and you have to mask. Maybe you're in ministry, and you know that there's something very off. And but you're still there because there are people that you love so much that's there. So it's you're slowly working on changing the language by speaking, and that's a beautiful thing actually. The language of how ministry was and is, you know. But that mask starts to crack, because those masks, when you start working with medicine like that, it was meant for you to work with it like a hammer, but not walk all day with a hammer expecting to see a nail every time, because you're not going to see a nail everywhere you go. Well, maybe where I'm at right now. It's temporary, but you get the drift. It's that as we start to ascend, we need each other even more so to a point, just like we need those masks to a point. And we kind of like forgot to place the mask down, sometimes to shatter, and in beautiful sacred ritual to burn that mask with love, ready to release it into the ethers, into Mother Earth, into source consciousness, with in your way, in the way that you know how to. Because when you go into the darkest aspects of your nature, the work that you haven't done and the work that your ancestors kind of like cast into you, almost like the original hex and curse, which is actually being born here by your ancestors, is a lot more dangerous than anybody who can possess you or any entity or being, because you call it normal, you call it family. And in their subconscious mind, your family, again, I'm talking to those who are resonating with this video, they chose you to be that chosen one per se. In essence, they're the chosen ones too, so it's like a weird term that people are using, but you know, at least I'm saying it so that you can get what I'm trying to say. That if you put down that chosen one label in the way that they're marketing, campaigning then it gets passed on. It doesn't matter if you have kids or not, it gets passed on because we collectively are working interchangeably along with source, interchangeably, not separate. The human mind is what separated everything. You're here to bring it back home, bring it back together. And simply that when you start singing and speaking the tune of your voice, your subconscious and your conscious mind no longer separate, yes, it's going to disturb and irk, and it's going to disrupt a lot of people. And a lot of people that were with you and are with you, they're now being challenged to ascend alongside with you in their way. Or they're going to start holding envy on you, which actually is not it's actually, for me, I don't call that a red marker or a red flag, it's actually a green flag. Red meaning bad, red meaning root. It means that you're bringing something from the root up. Then green means you're ready to see it as a beautiful, powerful thing to work with, so you can change the colors, right? It's not just a red flag. So a green flag, you could call it a yellow flag. Pick a color. These are flags saying that it's time. If it could be for a minute, it could be for a second, it could be for a fasting time, it could be for 3 days, it could be 3 years, it could be for the rest of that of the life that you're working with or engendering with that person. As an example, it could be a cousin, it could be a family member, it could be a sibling, right? It could be a relationship, marriage, best friend. It's not limited to the sexual side of things. For you to start honoring that frequency, you have to clean your basement. And the basement is where the basement is, I'm calling the basement your subconscious sense of frequency of existence, which is your mental aspects, your physiology as well. So because you're not aware of it, or most aren't, that's why you walk with that burden. The burden wasn't meant for you to walk. The burden has nothing to do with, it's actually Antichrist. The burden, holding on to the burden is actually Antichrist, the upside down cross. And that's why kind of like the story behind this, like the cross now going right side up as Christ was walking with the sword, the cross, the same, right? As you, well, I guess the sword, right? Because as you bear that sword, that cross, it's like cutting yourself with a sword. You're not learning or remembering how to wield that sword. That sword should be in the sheath as you walk. So Christ got that at the right time, because that's how he needed to, and self-enlighten, because it was for him. But then he realized, oh, I no longer need this. It was for everyone else. It was a map. It was a blueprint. How do you know it's a map? It's because if you just keep living and dying for 2,000 years waiting for Christ to save you, what do you think he's going to lead you to? Another promised land? What happened 2,000 years ago? This is the promised land, right? It's because he's doing all the work. He can't bear your burden. He can't bear your burden that you cast onto him. There's your blueprint. Do unto others as you would love for others to do unto you, and as they expect. So that's his purest nature. You don't require another form body to teach you that, do you? If you do, then you're going to be evolving for another 2,000 years, and then we are going to come right back down. Same story, yada yada yada. This place will look different. Might be the hood 2,000 years later. Might not be any trees, right? Might be all like devastated, right? Because people forgotten and lost their humanity. We forgot about the simplicities. We forgot about dark nature works in harmony, engendering light, and light in return feeds the dark down here in the 3D. So as you start to clean your basement, because in your basement are all the burdens that were imprinted onto you. It started with your mom, with your name, with everything. What your last name is supposed to be upholding. Oh my gosh, if you were born into religion, or if you were born with atheists, the same, right? It's just as, I was going to say horrible. It's just as horrible. It's a red flag when you're an ancient one. That's why you need to go through the rage, through the anger, through the disharmony of inflicting onto others that are trying to instill something that was never yours to begin with, because you're still not aware of your emotions. And they are, so they start using it against you. So they start feeding you with saying that there's something wrong with you. You can't be angry, you can't be rageful. Your heart, especially, think, oh my gosh, God forbid you're born a man. It's even worse. It's more unacceptable. So now a lot of us old ancient ones, yeah, we end up on drugs. We end up becoming abusers. We end up going to jail. Is because we allowed for these nails to be hammered into the basement of our subconscious mind, because we didn't clean the basement. And now for the horrible things that we've done in this world, because who hasn't, right? I could say my horrible things, but let's go into your closet. Who cares? Be honest. But people care. It's because they want to go into your basement. They don't know anything about theirs. So they want to see the dark nature of what you have and compare and contrast. Now you get it. So you go into your basement, and in your basement is where you're supposed to sit there and meditate. And your basement is where you're supposed to find your silence, your quietude, your surrendering of self. But when you go there, going back to the beginning of this video, when you go there, you bypass that. If you are just a light worker saying I didn't have to do that because and you you kind of like didn't, but then you kind of like force other people to do it for you. It becomes a false reality in a sense. Why am I saying this? It's because that person who's just all love and light, who hasn't gone and cleaned out their basement the same, and who doesn't understand the harmony between the two, and then choose to be love and light. You feel what I'm saying? It's a whole different ballgame. You could be the commentator of and be the best and the most professional at for football, professional football, and you may even know more than that football player, but you kind of like don't. You've never played football, never became an NFL player, right? As an example, and you've never played it, and you've never kind of like morphed from there and then retired and became that commentator. Look at the Tom Brady's and all these people. I was never a fan of Tom Brady, but he's like fun to hear. Now he's fun on the other side, see? Right? For those who are not fans, I'm sorry if you're a fan. But you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. It's nothing wrong with the commentator because that person's making a living and they kind of like, they work with each other and they integrate. So if they can work in harmony, in tandem, then you get something beautiful because now everyone starts to understand the foundation and the landscape of what I'm saying. And that football player retiring, now they're learning what the commentator can train them with. And the commentator starts becoming wiser with what they cannot do physically, emotionally, because they never became football players. So they're learning the wisdom in between, and because there's no longer competition or ego, then they can work together in harmony. That's supposed to be humanity. That's supposed to be everywhere we go. It should be natural. So because it's not natural, because I can say I walk like that, right? Nobody wants to take accountability for the crap that they put into my basement, as an example, right? So what happens is that they don't need to, free will here. It's all good. But now once I start to release and start cleaning house and working with my spider tribe, and sometimes you find a couple of cockroaches reminding you that people watching you, you know what I'm saying? Because they only work with the energetics of the dark, right? So down there you're gonna see a lot of cockroaches. So now you're in your meditation, doesn't have to be a physical basement, by the way. You hear the metaphor. You're in your basement and you start, maybe you're working with plant medicines, or maybe you're working with plant medicines being herbal, food being that medicine. It could be Chinese medicine as an example, right? And now you're cleaning out your system and you're headed towards that basement, you're descending, right? And now that basement starts to show you like worse things, because as you become conscious of your subconscious mind, you're going to reflect out your power. And your power is that whatever you're seeing come at you that you were not conscious of, everything in front of you, even people walking down the street, they call them NPCs, non-participating characters, right? They are all working in harmony with your subconscious. Because our subconscious is the door or the opening of our meta-conscious, of our human connection. That's why. But you can't get there if it's like all messy, because that mess at the same time, even though it's phlegm, was pestilence, and it is pestilence for most of us. Parasitic, black mold, go down there and get you sick, could die. So you're taught not to do that. You're taught to use chemistry and to work with allopathic medicine to rid of that. You see what I'm saying? It's shunned upon because that cockroach now speaks with me. That spider speaks with me. That's family. It doesn't always have to look like a beautiful bee. I'm not saying to go there and give it a kiss, but once you start understanding who was that princess that kissed the frog, the little frog, and that frog became the what? Right? You graduate beyond the threshold of judging not just humans but all beautiful creatures made by source, because they all walk with a fractal of soul. It might not be a complete soul like a human, right? It may not even have spirit, right? You could say that there are creatures that have zero soul, but there's always a fractal. There always has to be accountability of a fractal of soul, because without soul, S-O-L, S-O-U-L, soul in Latin and Spanish, sun, without that light spark, without that energy, there cannot be of existence of an energetic form body or an embodiment between the light and the dark. So those cockroaches will go like that when you're walking down the street and you're having a conversation with a neighbor and they're speaking to you. They're like, oh, that neighbor has a lot of dark, they're just not aware of it. Now, instead of judging that neighbor and that cockroach, you say, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes it's bad news. Sometimes it's saying be careful, be wary. But again, you clean out your basement, so you just walk in presence and you just allow it all to, because you already know. You're already not just 3, but you're 10 steps ahead of the dark nature of beings. You didn't come here to be saved. You came here to be a master of self, to know thyself, as I said in the past videos. But that's up to the 3rd chakra, right? First 2 chakras, root, sacral, solar, right? Soul, to bring to the light the subconscious aspects of your darkest natures. And the darkest natures of yourself wasn't limited by just your roots, because then you have the earth star chakra, and that's how you're connected. You just don't see branches, but you're like a walking tree. That's why they always say the tree of knowledge, the tree of wisdom, the breathing aspects, right? The tree, carbon dioxide, oxygen. They say go hug a tree, right? Everything's about, in martial arts, you're always holding the tree posture, qigong. In Kung Fu, you're doing all kinds of tree kind of postures to strengthen your tendons, your ligaments, your sinews. So we're not separate from the trees. And you stand next to the tree is trying to cheat you. Trees swaying and moving. And if you're able to go to the deeper aspects, the tree can also come and morph within you and into you and become interconnected. And I'm not saying possess you, but to speak with you. But then you start seeing also that you're leaning on a tree, and there's also termites, there's ants, there's insects, there's worms. And they start biting you. Oftentimes, I'm scratching myself. They start biting you when you're not in alignment. And when you're in alignment, they may still bite you because you're probably saying, whoa, I didn't listen. I shouldn't have been in this neighborhood, in this forest. Because the energy there might not be in alignment with me. Or that tree might say, get away from me. It becomes a different level of communication. So now here you are with that dark soul, not love and light, but they came across your path. And you just said, hello, how are you? How's it been? But because you saw that conversation, that language is probably all they needed. You became their physician until they're ready to remember that they're their true physicians in their own time. You integrated, you encoded. I'll stop there, but that what I just said right there, I could write books on. And there are many people that I know that can write even more books than that. And I don't mean like I'm scholarly that way. I don't mean that. What I mean is that the information is like its own kung fu system. It's like a million-year-old system that's not new to me. It was just me tapping in. And the only way for me to have been able to tap in is to alchemize the light within my darkness, because they exist and are sparked and are required bottoms up, from the bottom up. And many of us miss from top to bottom. Why? Because we are having a lot of childhood trauma, because we feel rejected by our moms or pops, and we have all these things, and that's like almost like they actually are wearing masks of feeling the cord cut, like, why did God forsaken me? Why did Jesus forsaken me, per se, right? It's kind of like that. Why would my angels and my guides, if I have all these spirit team, why are they leaving me here? And why are they not giving me more signs? Why are they not working with me more? Where's my soul tribe? Where are they? I can't see them. I can't find them, right? So that's happening is because you need to work with those traumas that most of them, a lot of them, and most of them, depending on you, were never yours to begin with, but once they become imprinted in you, I can't see the separation to become, because this is part of you. Just like I say, I don't see much of a separation between an ant and a human. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to make an analogy there. But in the most beautiful way, when you're breathing and you're not trying to categorize, there's no separation. The separation ceases to exist. So if you're are challenged or working within cleaning your basement, or you want to go deeper with anything that I spoke about, I am taking in consultations. I have rates also for people who like to see me weekly or cyclically. I lost myself. All right. I lost myself in my own humor. It wasn't even funny. Anyway, sometimes people want to see me weekly, bi-weekly, seasonally, sometimes 3 times in a row. Distance healing, I've had people hurt themselves, injure themselves, have an allergic reaction traveling, right? With or without Chinese medicine, I actually work with them to help heal. I keep saying it, like acupuncture without the needles. is a very real thing. It's not new. It's been around in Chinese Qigong and Kung Fu and Taoism for thousands of years. I've just been fortunate to have been training in it my entire life. It's just the first time that I'm opening it up publicly. I usually work with distance healing in tandem or adjunctively, when I'm working with clients or patients since 2014. But this is the first time I'm being opened and challenged for myself. It's my new Kung Fu is to actually now work 50 to 90% of my connections is so that I can continue to work with the ley lines of this world and work with places that I'm being called and led to, so that when we work together, we're actually working together. You're actually working within my journey and I'm within yours. So we don't need to know all the specifics, but we're actually expanding the greater good, because anything that I do is no longer me alone. Yes, it's all me, because you also have to have that sense of self. But again, like the basement, and just like that becomes the foundation, and now you understand the symphony of like that foundation that you're working with. That becomes a microcosm. That becomes the blueprint and the way that you work with anything or anyone. So people tend to ask me, I may have suggestions with books, but I don't read books. Anything that comes to me, like right now, this video, yes, it comes from the collective of all my experiences, but not limited to my ancestors, my guides, my higher self, source. Dark forces, can't forget them. Alright, that was a little dark, that. And in my basement, doesn't matter if I'm in a temple, doesn't matter if I'm in the woods, doesn't matter if I'm in a loud atmosphere. If I'm being told to align in the moment, I brought the hood to a beautiful place, or that beautiful place brought it to the hood. Why? Because remember, you didn't come here to be saved. I didn't forget that part that I said. You didn't come here to be saved. You came here to anchor heaven down to earth. As above, so below. As below, so above, right? As above, so below. It's the same. Different frequencies, but we're the bridge between, we're hybrid between above and below. Physical, non-physical. As within, so without. As without, so within. As the soul, the universe. You came here to alchemize and to anchor and help her within you ascend, because now you understand, as above, so below, as within, so without, that when you ascend, there is no longer self. You are no longer separated from the Creator. You're here to change, integrate new script. The content creator you are? All right. You want to do that so you can soften up a lot of people who are going to get a little ruffled. Reach out to me. I'm serious. I'm here. Stop procrastinating.